Return of the Jedi may look like the triumphant final chapter of the original Star Wars saga, but behind that victory, the Ewoks, the throne room duel, and the emotional final moments, lie secrets so wild, so unexpected, and so galactically bizarre that even lifelong fans never hear about them. From hidden battles behind the scenes to scenes that nearly destroyed the production, and decisions that could have changed the entire fate of the galaxy. Today we're diving into 15 shocking facts about Return of the Jedi that will completely transform the way you watch the film. This is the untold side of Jedi, the one you weren't meant to see. Number 1. The movie was shot under a fake title, and it backfired horribly. To protect Return of the Jedi from fans, journalists, and anyone who might leak details, the production invented a secret working title.
He scrapped the title, ordered new materials, and renamed the film Return of the Jedi.
Blue Harvest. The fake tagline? Horror beyond imagination. It was printed on hats, shirts, trucks, everything. The idea was to make outsiders think the crew was filming a cheap, uninteresting horror movie. But here's the shocking twist. The disguise made things more expensive, not less. Vendors, thinking this was a low-budget movie with no major studio behind it, tried to inflate prices on materials and services. They assumed Blue Harvest's team was desperate, inexperienced, and unaware of industry rates, so they jacked up costs. The crew started noticing rental fees doubling. Construction materials suddenly cost far more than normal. Hotels bumped up rates when Blue Harvest showed up needing rooms. The codename meant to save the production ended up nearly draining it. Imagine building the entire sail barge set while being price gouged in the middle of the desert. That's exactly what happened. To this day, it remains one of the most ironic production disguises in movie history. Number 2. The Sarlacc Pit scene was so dangerous. Someone nearly died. The Sarlacc Pit looks chaotic and intense on screen, but what happened behind the scenes was far more terrifying. The crew built the entire pit and skiff environment in the blazing desert.
But when the crew filmed in the bright Tunisian desert, there was a problem.
Surrounded by machinery, cables, and hidden drop-offs. Between the heat, the stunts, and the massive set, danger was everywhere. And during one chaotic moment, an actor fell through a hidden section of the platform and plummeted straight into the mouth of the Sarlacc, a drop of several meters. The actor lived, but only because someone nearby reacted fast enough to pull him out before the machinery beneath activated. Production halted. People panicked. One misstep, and someone would have been crushed or suffocated under the moving parts. For the rest of filming, cast and crew said they treated the Sarlacc set with the same energy as a wild animal.
Come to work. And everybody went, oh, I guess this really isn't horror beyond imagination. I guess this is really the next Star Wars movie.
Unpredictable, unstable, and ready to swallow anyone who got too close. It's one of the closest near disasters the film ever experienced. Number 3, Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo to die, and he pushed for it hard. This one hits emotionally, especially for fans who grew up idolizing Han Solo. During pre-production, Harrison Ford campaigned intensely for Han to die in Return of the Jedi. He believed the character had reached his arc's natural end, and that a heroic self-sacrifice would give the film emotional weight. He wasn't joking either. He pushed the idea with passion. Ford argued that killing Han would make the story more mature, that it would give audiences something to truly feel, something unforgettable. But the shocking part? Lucas rejected it instantly, not for story reasons, but for marketing ones. Lucas feared that if Han Solo died, fans wouldn't buy toys of him anymore. And Han Solo merchandise was a massive revenue machine. So no matter how hard Ford pitched the idea, Han was never allowed to fall. To this day, Ford still talks about it with a little sadness, knowing the story once stood on the edge of a very different emotional ending. Number 4. The Emperor's Throne Room had a hidden secret, a symbol you weren't supposed to notice. The Emperor's Throne Room is iconic, dark, cold, and unnervingly symmetrical. But buried inside the set design was a symbolic detail so subtle most viewers never notice it, and yet it defines everything about the Emperor. The throne room's architecture was designed around a twisting circular vortex pattern, a visual motif that represents a black hole. But here's the secret. The Emperor's throne sits at the vortex's center, symbolizing gravity itself collapsing inward, a metaphor for absolute power, a visual representation of corruption pulling everything toward darkness. A hint that the Emperor isn't just ruling the galaxy, he's consuming it. The set design team confirmed they built the room to feel like being pulled into a void.
This was the original concept of Emperor Palpatine's throne room.
And once you notice the vortex architecture, you can't unsee it. It's one of those brilliant silent storytelling choices that makes the finale feel suffocating, even before the first line is spoken. Number 5. The Ewoks were almost something much darker. And it changes everything. Ewoks are cute, friendly, huggable, but originally, they were meant to be savage, feral, and terrifying. The earliest versions of Return of the Jedi included concept art showing the Ewoks as brutal, war-worn creatures.
So Return of the Jedi features the introduction of the Ewoks, cute teddy bear-looking tribal species of the planet Endor.
Not teddy bears with spears, but something closer to primitive hunters. Bones as armor, animal hides as clothing, traps designed to maim instead of capture. The idea was to contrast their innocent appearance with their ability to take down advanced Imperial technology using raw, primal violence. But here's the shocking twist. Their darker version wasn't changed because it was too scary. Not at first. It was changed because production couldn't afford the more complex and gruesome makeup and costume designs. The final cute Ewoks we know today, they were literally a budget compromise. Of course, the child-friendly version ended up becoming iconic, but the movie we almost got would have transformed the Battle of Endor into something much more brutal, more primal, and far less cuddly. Number 6. The Jabba's Palace sequence. Nearly broke the cast. Literally, Jabba's palace feels sweaty, smoky, grimy, and suffocating on screen, because that's exactly what it was in real life. The set was sealed tight to maintain the fog and heat necessary for the atmosphere. Dozens of puppeteers crouched under platforms, rubber masks limited airflow, lights blasted down with brutal intensity. And here's the shocking part. During one long shoot day, the temperature inside the set rose to well over 40 degrees Celsius. That's 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Actors began passing out. Several puppeteers collapsed. At one point, a medic rushed in because someone started showing signs of heat exhaustion so severe they couldn't stand. The producers were forced to halt filming and install industrial fans just to keep people conscious. But even then, many of Jabba's creatures couldn't remove their masks between takes. It was too complicated, meaning they stayed trapped in their creature suits for hours at a time, behind the laughter, music, and chaos of Jabba's palace. The real horror was the heat. Number 7. Admiral Ackbar's most famous line was never supposed to exist.
It's a trap!
One of the most iconic lines in Star Wars history, shouted by the unforgettable Admiral Ackbar. But here's the curveball. That line wasn't written to be special. It wasn't treated like a big moment. It wasn't even considered memorable by the writers at the time. "It's a trap" was originally just a placeholder, a functional line to signal danger. The writers intended to replace it later with something more dramatic, something grander, something worthy of a massive space battle. But the placeholder never got changed. The production ran out of time. The line was simple, it worked, and they kept it. Nobody predicted it would become one of the most quoted lines in the entire franchise. One member of the effects team even said the irony still makes them laugh. The most iconic line in the battle was basically a sticky note we forgot to rewrite. Sometimes the galaxy's biggest moments happen completely by accident. Number 8. There was a deleted scene of Luke that completely changes his character arc. In the final cut of Return of the Jedi, Luke arrives at Jabba's palace calm, controlled, and confident.
Luke could have grew to become even more powerful than the Chosen One ever did.
A true Jedi. But there was an earlier version, with a moment so shocking, it would have changed how we see him forever. The deleted scene showed Luke constructing his new lightsaber in a dimly lit cave. He ignites the green blade for the first time, and the whole room glows with an eerie, mystical light. But here's the twist. Luke is wearing Darth Vader-style gloves, and the lighting and framing make him appear almost villainous, intentionally. The scene was designed to make the audience wonder, is Luke drifting toward the dark side? It would have added a darker tension to every moment that follows, every gesture, every stare, every emotional choice. But it was cut for pacing, and because Lucas felt it made Luke look too ominous too early. Still, that lost moment shows the filmmakers were toying with a far edgier, more complex version of Luke Skywalker than what made it to theaters. Number 9, Carrie Fisher's costume caused injuries, and she barely told anyone. The world remembers Slave Leia as an iconic moment.
But I was still much more concerned about the slave girl outfit and what I was going to do about it.
But behind the scenes, it was a physically brutal experience for Carrie Fisher. The metal bikini was rigid, sharp-edged, and barely adjustable. Every movement caused pain. Every lean, twist, or shift dug into her ribs, hips, and shoulders. Fisher later admitted that the costume left bruises across her body.
I got to kill Jabba the Hutt.
But she kept quiet to avoid being labeled difficult or unprofessional in an industry hostile to outspoken actresses. Even more shocking, between takes, she couldn't sit comfortably in chairs, so she often had to rest lying on her stomach or standing completely still just to relieve the pressure. Cast and crew members said she was incredibly tough, never complaining, even when it was obvious she was in discomfort. Behind that gold costume was an actress dealing with physical pain, while still delivering one of the most unforgettable performances of the trilogy. Number 10, the Rancor scene, was originally a man in a suit, and it looked horrible. Before the Rancor became the towering, monstrous beast we know, it was supposed to be a guy in a rubber costume.
Some monsters, sometimes the most ferocious of them, are simply hand puppets, like the Rancor in Return of the Jedi.
The effects team spent weeks trying to make the concept work, designing giant hands, drooping jaws, and a bulky suit that took multiple people to operate. But once filming began, the truth became painfully obvious. The man-in-suit Rancor looked bad. Not scary, not monstrous, not even weird in a cool way. Just awkward, a towering rubber puppet that moved like someone waddling through wet cement. George Lucas hated it immediately, so the team scrapped the entire creature design and rebuilt the Rancor sequence using stop-motion and miniature models, a last-minute pivot that completely saved the scene. Had they kept the original version, the Rancor moment, one of the most intense sequences in the movie, would have been remembered for all the wrong reasons. It's one of the most dramatic 11th-hour fixes in the film, and it paid off spectacularly. Number 11. Darth Vader's redemption scene was nearly completely different. The moment Vader saves Luke and turns on the Emperor is one of the most emotional moments in all of Star Wars. But the version we got wasn't the original plan. Early drafts had a much darker ending. In one script, Vader didn't speak at all during his sacrifice. No, you already have, Luke. No final emotional goodbye. Just silent, painful breathing, fading away. Another version had Vader actually survive the throne room battle, taking off his helmet later and living long enough to speak with Luke on Endor.
You already have.
But the most shocking discarded ending? A version where Vader reveals his face, and it's much more horrifying. Severely burned, scarred, and almost unrecognizable. The early concept art looked closer to a horror film than a redemption moment. Lucas eventually toned it all down, wanting the ending to feel more tragic, more human, and less grotesque. Instead of focusing on Vader's monstrous damage, he focused on the father and son, the emotional core. The ending we know, tender, heartbreaking, and human, came very close to being something far colder and far less emotional. Number 12. The speeder bike chase was filmed in a mind-blowing way you'd never expect. The forest speeder chase looks fast, chaotic, and impossibly smooth. But the trick behind it is almost unbelievably simple. Instead of moving stunt actors at high speed, the filmmakers walked slowly through the forest, just one step every few seconds. Then they recorded the footage at 1 frame per second. When played back at normal 24 frames per second, the forest rushed past like a blur, creating the illusion of extreme speed. But here's the wild part. To get the perfect effect, the camera operator had to keep an absolutely steady hand while walking through rough terrain at snail-like speed for hours. One wrong step ruined the entire shot. No CGI, no computers, just clever technique and physics. The legendary speeder chase, one of the coolest sequences of the entire trilogy, was filmed at the pace of a casual walk. Number 13. The Emperor's actor was nearly replaced at the last minute. Ian McDiarmid's performance as the Emperor is iconic. Cold, calculated, theatrical, and terrifying.
You will not be turned. You will be destroyed.
But here's the shocking truth. He was almost replaced just weeks before filming. Lucas originally wanted the role played by an older actor with natural decay in his features, not someone young in prosthetics. McDiarmid was only in his late 30s at the time. A second actor was lined up as a backup, and the studio actually tested both versions, McDiarmid's makeup versus the aged actor approach. But during rehearsals, there was a moment that sealed McDiarmid's fate. He performed the line, "Everything that has transpired has done so according to my design," with a chilling cadence that made even the crew go silent. The room froze. People stared. Someone whispered, "That's him." The backup actor was quietly released the next day. McDiarmid never found out until years later just how close he came to losing the role, a role that defined an entire generation of movie villains. Number 14. The Battle of Endor was nearly a Wookiee massacre, not an Ewok battle. Return of the Jedi originally featured a massive ground battle on the forest moon, but not with Ewoks.
Return of the Jedi wasn't just the end of a saga. It was chaos dressed as destiny.
It was supposed to be an epic Wookiee uprising, brutal, powerful, and emotionally charged. Wookiees versus Imperial walkers, Wookiees ripping apart machinery, a full-scale rebellion of raw muscle and fury. So, why didn't it happen? The truth is simple and shocking. Wookiees were already established as technologically skilled thanks to Chewbacca. Lucas wanted the ground battle to feel primitive versus advanced, and Wookiees were too smart, too capable, to fit that contrast. So the idea was reversed. Instead of giant warriors fighting the Empire, we got tiny underdogs outsmarting an all-powerful force. Budget issues sealed the deal. Creating dozens of full Wookiee costumes would have been far more expensive than Ewok suits. What was originally supposed to be a brutal Wookiee revolt became one of the most controversial, yet iconic, elements of Return of the Jedi. Number 15. The ending celebration. Originally had a dark, bittersweet twist. The final celebration on Endor is joyous, triumphant, and warm, a perfect ending to the trilogy. But the earliest concept wasn't so hopeful. One version had Luke stepping away from the crowd, quiet, isolated, and shot from behind, echoing the posture of a lonely Jedi. The last shot would have been Luke staring at the burning remains of the Empire, realizing the cost of the war and the sacrifices still ahead.
Instead, Jedi chose hope, and that choice made the saga timeless.
Another ending had the ghosts of Anakin, Yoda, and Obi-Wan, but instead of smiling peacefully, they appeared more serious, almost mournful, reflecting the heavy burden Luke now carried. And here's the most surprising twist. There was once a version where Luke takes Vader's place, momentarily sitting in the Emperor's throne, hinting that the line between light and dark is thinner than we think. Lucas ultimately shifted to a more uplifting ending, wanting the Skywalker journey to close with hope instead of ambiguity. But that darker ending still lingers in early drafts, a haunting reminder of the version of Return of the Jedi we almost got. And that is the hidden heart of Return of the Jedi, a movie that looks bright and victorious on the surface, yet hides some of the wildest, strangest, and most emotional behind-the-scenes stories ever filmed. From dangerous sets to nearly fatal production issues, to scenes that could have changed the entire galaxy's fate, Return of the Jedi wasn't just a finale, it was a battle behind the camera as well. If you enjoyed this journey into the untold secrets of one of the most beloved films of all time, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and drop a comment below. And hey, if you want to join the Rewatch Club, all you have to do is hit that subscribe button. Trust me, it's a lot easier than destroying a second Death Star. Tell me, which moment from Return of the Jedi still gives you chills? And which Star Wars movie do you want us to cover next? Your ideas shape this channel, and I can't wait to see what galaxy we explore with you next.